Hi, I'm Nadia and I'm the Yogi.
And I'm Michelle and I'm the Blonde.
And this is the Yogi and the Blonde podcast.
In this podcast, we offer guidance,
Motivation,
education,
and inspiration
to help you adopt healthy habits you can sustain for life.
If you enjoy the podcast and would like further information,
head over to our Instagram or YouTube pages.
You can find the links in the bio. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today on the Yogi and the Blonde. Yo, Michelle.
Oh, hi.
You little quiet there. She's like, for those that aren't watching, she's bebopping. We're kind of bebopping our heads to start off with.
Having a little dance, warming up.
Yeah. We do, we always start off with a few things. We talk a little bit beforehand and check in with each other and discuss a bit about the podcast, what we're recording, what we're going to talk about. And yeah, that's how we start off. Now, today what are we talking about? We are talking about move it or lose it. And
move it or lose it.
How the movement can be medicine. Okay. So
not actual medicine, but
a holistic medicine, we'll say.
Yes.
A holistic way. But it's all about how movement, we are built to be moved. So we're going to discuss about 4 different topics. So I'm just looking here. I can't remember off the top of my head. I'm going to be talking a little bit about mental health. Michelle's going to talk about how it creates energy. And I'll talk a little bit about connection of brain and body, how we need to move for our brain and body health. And then Michelle's going to talk about muscle and bone decline and how movement helps with that as well.
Sounds so serious.
So serious. Hey, can I share a little something about movement, how movement can help? Now, yes, I've been working, I've got most of my clients are females, and not all of them, but a good portion of them. And the females that I've got, the ones that come in and say, hey, I'm on my menstrual cycle today, or I'm on day 2, I'm on day 1 or whatever. When they first started sharing this with me, I'm like, okay, thank you for sharing. That's awesome. Great. Thank you for the communication. We're going to lift heavy today. And they all look at me really funny. I don't know if you do this at all with your clients, Michelle, but do you?
I have mixed feelings on this topic.
Interesting, because all of them love it. They feel the difference. They feel, because for example, I'm going to use a client. She came in. Yes, she's quite fairly new. Well, she started with me. She went away for a few months, and then came back. And within the first 24 hours of her cycle, and she's like feeling really heavy and bloated around the pelvis and her lower back. And so, we did some activation, some warm up and stuff, and we did it very basic because she's new to this. So we went on the seated leg press, not the incline one. And we just started playing around, just softly getting her. We did about 12 reps, nothing too heavy, just to feel where she is. And we just worked through that. She'd get up and then walk around. We'd have these huge, 2-3 minute breaks, and we'd talk, get her to do some breath work. And every client I do that with that's on their cycle, they love it. They feel so much better afterwards. They're not feeling crampy anymore, nothing with the lower back, and they feel empowered. So this is what I found, and this is what I find for myself. So I think it'll be different for everyone, but I think it's not jumping into lifting heavy, but progressing into it. And this is why I'm just saying, it's just something, again, movement is good for you, right? Yeah. What's your thoughts on it? I just want quick, we'll go back to what we were discussing about, but this is just interesting.
This is a good tangent. Yeah, I love the idea of this topic because if you have a menstrual cycle, you do have hormonal fluctuations throughout the month. And if you have one, you know that it affects everything. It affects your mood, it affects how you feel, how you view things. So it really interests me that we might adapt our training around our cycles. However, where I have mixed feelings on the topic is that the scientific research to back it up just isn't really conclusive. And I've just got an issue that there are lots of people out there now, mainly on Instagram and social media,
Mm-hmm.
where there is no gray, it's all just black and white. So there are a lot of people kind of basically selling programs or saying this is how you should train around your cycle, and kind of like it's a definitive thing. But from my
Yeah.
personal experience,
Yeah.
and from experience with working with clients, I just think it's way more nuanced than that. And I like the approach that you take, because it's not just, right, let's go and lift up something really heavy. You work with the client to build them up, gauge their energy, give them lots of rest, use the breathing to, you know, make sure they're fully present.
Yeah,
But
totally.
I've had a client who was so painfully bloated. She came in to do her session anyway, but she just could not engage her core. She was so crampy, and sometimes I get such severe menstrual cramps. It is hard to engage your core, and I think if you can't engage your core properly, to go and do a big heavy barbell squat or a big deadlift, like, it's just asking for trouble. So
Yeah.
I think it has to be individual.
That's
And
right.
even individually, it can't necessarily be the same thing every month, because I've been tracking my cycle for such a long time now, and my symptoms are not the same month to month.
And they never
So
are.
it's not even like I can say, cool, this is my menstrual cycle, this is how I know to train, because it might be the next month and I'm like, what is happening to me?
I
And it's
completely,
not happening. So I just think it's just individual, and it's just like anything. It's just like training anyone with a menstrual cycle or not. When you have your session with them, you see where their energy's at, what else is going on in their life, how tired they are, how their sleep was, etc.,
yeah,
etc., and then you adapt the training
to that.
for that
And I
moment.
completely agree with you on that. I kept biting my fingers because I'm like ready, eager to jump in. I'm trying to give you space there, Michelle. I'm trying to hold you space. It's a work in progress. But and I completely agree with you with that. Like, I think lifting heavy when you got your cycle is great. And there's a big but behind it, because
Yeah.
I've this is what I do with all my clients. Like, I'm sure you do the same from the sounds of it, Michelle. Check in. How are they doing? What's their energy like? What's their sleep like? Da 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 da. Some of them I know it might be their personalities where they just whinge and whine. So after I get to know someone, I'm like, okay, that's just them whinging and whining. They're actually not in that position. But I've had one client, I said, okay, come in, let's lift heavy. And then she's like, oh, I'm intrigued. But then actually she wasn't feeling well. She was like low energy, bloated. So with her, we went, did some breathing, did some visualization. Then I just stretched her out a bit, and I gave her a nice warm sweater to wear, because she just had a singlet on and some shorts. So I had like a fuzzy sweater in my locker. I got her to put that on. I stretched her out, got her to go with the breath, all of that, and she was loving it. So I'm the same way. I see how people are that day, and I'll already have an idea what I'm going to work on them. But a lot of the time they come in, something's injured. They had crap sleep. They're feeling bloated. They're overwhelmed. They're stressed. So it's about working with that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this is a good thing to start off on how this affects our mental health. Let's start off with that, Michelle, because movement is a powerful thing, and it improves our mental well-being. And I was sharing with Michelle earlier, from my own experience, I know that when I am struggling and stuff, and struggling to get out of bed, low energy, or have no motivation, I know this sounds maybe a bit horrid, but I push myself out of bed. I get myself up, even if I've got clients and I'm just struggling to get out of bed to go for a workout. I will push myself, because I know as soon as I step into the gym, I start seeing people that I work with, start seeing the regular members, I start moving and connecting with my clients. Again, that's movement. It doesn't have to be intense exercise. It changes my state of mind, and it's just by even just starting with the little action steps. And when you start to create that physical activity, it stimulates and it releases endorphins. So that's our mood boosting. I've got some clients, I'm a morning person, so I'm like all excited, but some of my clients are like so quiet, and just I try to be very calm when they come in, because I'm aware, okay, I can't be my outburst person because that's going to annoy the crap out of them. Yeah. So I try to, it's hard. It's a lot of work for me. It's really hard. But I pull back and I get them to move. They don't look really happy. And then as soon as they start moving, the mood completely changes. And it's so fascinating to see. And again, because we're doing that, that helps to reduce our stress, right? And it's by providing an outlet. So think about that tension, anxiety that you're building up, and creating that movement is just a way to let go of the tension. Because you think about it what it does, it's that physical activity. It changes your mind to think about something else because you're being present, thinking about the exercise you're doing. And what it does, it promotes activities of the production of your transmitters like serotonin and dopamine, which play that key role of mood regulation, which is great. This is what we want. It affects our moods, which is, our hormones. And as well, I don't know with you, Michelle, I find when I create movement, even if it doesn't have to be in the gym, I want you guys to really think about this. When I'm talking about movement, I'm not talking about going to the gym, going hard for 2 hours. I'm talking about just going for a walk, going for a hike, playing ping pong, go for a skate, just create movement, do some stretching, get up and do some stretching, whatever that might be. That helps with getting fatigued. And this helps with our quality of sleep. So we spoke back, which one was it when we spoke about, it was and the NEAT one, we were talking about steps, right? And do you remember that, Michelle? When we were talking about steps? And it's about, about creating movement every day. It doesn't have to be exercise. This will help with the sleep as well. And I don't know with you, I'm going to ask you, do you notice by teaching technique and great form to a client, it increased their self-esteem?
Yeah, I have seen that. I have seen that happen
Yeah.
when
And
they nail a new exercise, or not even just a technique thing, but
a progression?
recognizing a progression in terms of weight that they're moving,
And that's movement again.
yeah, movement patterns that they couldn't do before that they can do now. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And that's the thing, is like, even like that movement pattern that you're talking about, like even creating that stretch and that mobility. I do a bit of resistance training, and then you fall into it and stretch a bit, and people are like, oh wow, oh, I can't believe how hard that was, but oh, I got more mobility and stuff like that. Just even those little things, and that's creating movement. It's, you do not have to be running a marathon. It's that little bit, and then you create more, and then you crave to move more, and rather than just sitting there and doing that. And something I'll jump back to, it creates that distractions of thoughts, right? When we wake up with the same thoughts we think every day, and it could be like limited beliefs. We've talked about the ego, and this is the ego that drives and empowers the limited beliefs, and we keep thinking that. So if you're going through a hard time in your life and you keep thinking the same thing over and over, when we move, when you go to the gym, we need to have a mind-body connection. You need to be moving, have intention, engage those muscles. And just by moving, creating motion, you're not really creating that connection to the body and the mind. So that's, again, that creates a distraction, and it redirects those thoughts to being present and what's going on right now, rather than something that you're worried about or feel anxious about that could be out of your control.
yeah. I
Another
often
thing,
say that to my clients because if you're doing a big complex movement like a deadlift, for example, you've got
yeah,
so many cues to think about. Where's my head position? Where are my shoulders? Are my lats engaged? There are so many things that you have to go through and checkpoint off in your head. There's no space to be having any of your troubles from the outside world. That all has to be parked at the door so that you can fully focus on the task at hand and not
yeah.
hurt yourself.
Yeah, because I'll get clients going, oh, there's so many things to think about. And I'm like, yeah, just find something that you resonate, that you can connect with, focus on that, and everything will build. So that's why working with a PT, it's not an overnight fix. It's a continuous work in progress. And that comes right into that mind body connection. And so when you think about mind body connection, that's like stuff like yoga. You connect because you're moving, you're breathing. Tai chi, is it gong chai? I don't know. It's just, again, all of those is movement. Gong kai gong, something like that. I'm sorry if I'm, to those that know what I'm saying, please write down in the comments below what it is, because I'm like mucking it up, and I apologize for that. Yeah. But it's all of that all of that is about movement with connection with the breath, right? And that helps with that state of mind. And you're doing breathing. I know that I don't know if you might have heard me talk about Dr. Libby. She's a doctor, but very holistic. And she spoke about, she used to run all the time. And then she started doing, I think it was like Tai Chi, where you like move with a breath, and it's a slow movement. And she found she lost weight by doing that than running. And that, not saying that Tai Chi is the way to lose weight, but for her, because she was always doing something that was very high intensity cardiovascular, by switching it around, her body was like, what's going on? And like was able to relax and be centered and peaceful. Again, it doesn't matter what kind of movement you're doing. It doesn't have to be high intensity. Just going for a walk, a mindful walk. Anyways, I think I've shared enough on that, really.
Yeah, it's funny actually. It's quite a timely podcast today, because in the staff room this morning, I was having a chat with some of the other PTs,
Yeah.
and one of them was saying if he doesn't work out, he starts to feel not anxious. He didn't say anxious, but he can feel his emotions starting to fray. He notices himself getting a bit, I want to say angry, but angry sounds really severe.
But
It's not
it could be.
necessarily anger. Well, because then one of the other PTs, he said, oh, 100%, I suffer from mega road rage. You can probably guess who I'm talking about. He says, if I do a workout, I find that my road rage disappears. So he kind of works out to manage his
That's
rage, I guess.
Yeah.
So that's quite interesting how you're kind of saying it links in with your mental health. And two separate people this morning had a conversation about how they work out to manage their internal feelings.
But it's true. It's true, because it distracts us from that internal dialogue, that ego-driven, limited belief, so judgmental, critical inner voice that we all have. It kind of helps to dissipate that and change that, because again, you're also changing your mood by you're amping up your hormones, your feel good hormones, right?
Yeah.
And that's so important. That's why, and we're built to be doing that. Now, Michelle, tell us a little bit about creating energy with that. You're the one that's going to be talking about that part today.
So, I mean, you will always hear people say, and especially about children, oh my God, I just have no idea how they've got so much energy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you see
Yep,
people
totally.
buzzing around, doing things. You've got people that are doers. When you've got guests over, they're running around, making sure everybody's got something, just energetic. Some people seem to have more energy than others. And we've obviously talked in the past in other podcasts about how nutrition is a form of energy, but exercise itself can also be a form of energy. So this is scientific, and we don't need to go very sciencey, but we have lots and lots of things inside us called mitochondria. Yep. They are attached to every single cell in our body, and they are referred to as the powerhouse of our cells. So energy is produced in the mitochondria of our cells. When you exercise and when you are a fit person, you have more mitochondria than somebody that does not exercise and move their body. So if you have more mitochondria, you can just create more energy than somebody that has less. So actually being physically active can make you more energetic than somebody that isn't. And that seems illogical, because you would see someone that's exercising all the time and go, oh my God, I don't know how they're not so tired. I don't do anything and I'm knackered. And it's like, well, that person is making their body literally healthier and give it the ability to produce more energy just in its day to day by being active. And it's just one of those weird things in life where, you know, you're like, oh, I'm tired, so I'm not going to do anything today. I need to rest. Whereas actually, as you mentioned before, having that discipline to get yourself out of bed, get moving. Once you start moving, once the oxygen is moving around your body and it's making its way to your cells and to your muscle cells, that promotes those feelings of energy. So actually, unless you're unwell, unless you are recovering because you have been very active during the week, unless you are fatigued, then if you're just kind of feeling a bit meh, which I've actually felt quite a lot, not this week because we've actually had quite a lot of sun, but the week prior when it was just raining all the time, I just felt so meh. And I found that my step count went down because I didn't want to go outside as much. And that just led me into just feeling more and more lethargic because I wasn't doing anything. Whereas had I just snapped out of it, just forced myself up, done something, gone to the gym, walked on the treadmill, got on a bike, did some movement, I would have probably pulled myself out of the funk that I was in a lot earlier than I
And
did.
that's fascinating because you're talking about, see how that all intertwines as well, is that, you know, you're talking about the how it creates energy, and I was saying at the beginning is like that same thing, you know, but it helps with your mood, it affects your, and it's and that's the thing, it does a ripple effect. It's not going to be one thing that fix everything. So that's great. I love that, and I love how sharing that with us, and just how it affects, it's just, it does that ripple effects. I don't know how else to explain it. I feel like I'm a bit tongue tied at the moment.
Yeah, it's like a snowball. Once the
Yeah,
snowball
there you
starts
go.
going down the hill, it gains pace, it picks up more and more snow. And, you know,
Yeah,
once you start, that, like I said, the blood starts pumping, the oxygen's moving around, the
yeah,
mitochondria are firing, they're creating energy, things start moving. And then, like you said, the hormones start firing up. Bing, bing, bing. Everything starts snowballing, and
yeah,
then we're fine.
yeah, and it's great because I like that, and it's um this is something maybe you and I've spoken about, is about motivation. And motivation is created by what, Michelle?
Action.
And what is action? Moving. And what is that?
Movement.
That's going to create you energy. So it just, you know, a lot of people are like, oh, I have no motivation. Well, you got to create action to get motivation, because it gives
Yeah.
you that energy, it gives you that forward.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love it. I love it. It feels like a bit sometimes like you see things, how it all overlaps and how it helps each other, right? Now,
100%.
was there anything else that you wanted to share with us, or do you think you got your point?
No, that's my
That's it.
main point.
Your main point, which is great, because then it comes back to the body and the body and the brain. So when we think about movement, we always think about the physical body, but actually it's also good for the brain, because our brain needs to be stimulated. So one way to create brain health through movement is creating balance. Because Michelle, when you do balance, do you ever, if you're like balancing, do you notice you need to focus?
Absolutely.
And
And I give a tip to my clients when they're trying to balance, when they're doing a unilateral movement. I will tell them to find a spot on the floor, which, you know, the gym that we work in, there are lots and lots of spots on the
spots,
floor.
yeah. Spots galore.
So find one of those spots and focus on that as you go through the movement.
Yeah.
And that focus helps them to keep their balance whilst they're going through the movement.
because you're needing to focus, right? And focusing is the brain. It's the same thing when I'm teaching yoga, and lately I've been a bit off. I'm usually not too bad, but I've noticed past maybe 2-3 weeks, teaching it. And so you're speaking and you're focused to create that balance. It's challenging. For me, it's challenging, especially the past 3 weeks. And I always start off and say, okay, everyone, I kind of see people on my provisional,
oh God, I can't say peripheral
visual. You guys get what I mean.
Yeah.
So, and what I what I do is I'll be like, guys, I can kind of still see you, but I need to focus, or I'm going to be really toppling all over the place because I'm talking as well, right? So I've got a few things going on, because they say that you can't multitasking, you do things half-ass, right? So that's the same thing with teaching. When you're doing like balance, for me, is if I'm teaching and talking and moving and trying to focus, I just feel like I'm going to do something half-ass, either teach half-ass or balance half-ass, but I laugh about it anyways. But so you think about that, going back to that balance, being that focus. And again, I tapped back into where my clients, when I'm teaching them about technique, and I'll go back to the deadlift, what Michelle was saying is, there's all these little things you need to think about. Your lats, and are you engaged and pushing through the heels and core and drawing up and drawing in, moving with the breath and all sorts of stuff, right? And are you hinging from the hips, or are you squatting, and just being aware of all that. And that is, again, coming back to that brain connection, because you need to be using your brain to be into that. And again, with that, when we think about that, that comes back to that mental health. A lot of it comes to mental health. Mental and physical health really go in together. Now, another thing, what it does is what's up with me? Okay. Cognitive
Cognitively.
Yeah, cognitive function. So movement and exercise enhances that cognitive function and brain health. So as we were talking about, that physical activity increases your blood flow to the brain, so delivering more oxygen, which Michelle also talked about, and nutrients, which is our optimal health for our brain function, right? And it promotes that neuroplasticity and the brain's ability to form new connections and adapt new information. So improving that memory and attention to learning. So it's amazing, because you are learning new things. And with a client today, she's got some knee issues. She's an older lady in her 60s, and it's something that we're working on. And today I just took it. I know with her, if I go really quickly, she gets flustered and she won't know what to do. So I just always go little baby step. Okay. And we'll repeat things over and over and over. And it sounds maybe kind of odd, but one thing that I have taken with my yoga teacher training from my teacher through the course had said, repetition is the key. You're not going to pick it up. And each time you do it, you're going to find a little bit better how to do it and find what's easier to do it. So repetition is a good thing. And that helps with, again, our brain function, because then we start to learn about ourselves and how we can move with that. And again, it all comes through, again, all of this by creating that brain function and creating that tiredness and exercise for the brain. It increases our sleep. That seems to be something that keeps coming again. It boosts our energy, which Michelle was talking about, and it's a disease prevention. It's not a cure. I want to say that out. It's not a cure, which we kind of said, it's movement is medicine, right? Because it's a holistic, natural way. It's not, I'm going to take a tablet kind of thing. It's about, this is what our body is built to do. And as we engage in regular physical activity, it reduces the risk of chronic disease as heart disease, because you are creating that cardiovascular. Again, going back to what Michelle was talking about, is somebody having no energy and somebody who's always going. Somebody who has no energy, it's because they're not moving. and you got to create that energy to make energy. So it's that same thing, and that helps to prevent various things. It's not, I want to make that clear again, it's not to heal you or fix you, but it's a tool towards a healthier self. It helps with your type 2 diabetes. It helps with the stroke, heart disease, certain cancers, osteoporosis, which I think Michelle's going to be talking more about as well. And it helps managing existing conditions. Like I find for myself, having a kidney disease, if I am not drinking adequate amount of water, I'm not moving, I feel the fluid buildup in my body. So, or if I'm sitting for long periods of time, I feel the fluid buildup in my legs, in my feet, quite a lot. So it helps on so many different levels. Again, movement is medicine. It's recommended to engage in some kind of combination of movement. It doesn't have to be high intensity. It could be any type of cardiovascular, walking, jogging, cycling, strength training. So you're using some weights, and also activities like, again, flexibility, balance, like the yoga, the Tai Chi. And you think that helps with the mental health, but also helps physically. Oh, I think I've like gone on a bit of a tangent again there.
No, I think it's really important because, it's not a secret that exercise is good for you.
That's
But
right.
I feel like there's almost a resistance in people. It's almost like, oh, yeah, oh, can't be asked, or, but it is important. It does make a difference. And there are reasons why people tell you that exercise is important. There are reasons why there are recommendations. So I think it's amazing for anybody that is doing something. They're coming to a gym, they're joining a club, they're doing something, because so many people don't, and they think, oh, it's not for me, oh, I don't like it, I don't feel comfortable. But you have to find a way of moving that suits you. Like you said,
That's
it
right.
doesn't have to be in a gym, it can be anything, but move your body. Don't fall into the trap of thinking it's not for you. I don't want to get sweaty. I don't want to look this way,
Yeah.
because you are putting yourself more at risk of these illnesses later on in your life, and that's a fact.
I had somebody reach out to me the other day, and they sent me a video of it was a TV document or something of his experience. So bad accident, has issues. Is they got a quadriplegic when they're like waist down? Or is that paraplegic?
I'm not sure. Sorry.
But anyway, so from that, he's worked through and he can walk and all that now, but it's really hard for him to go running on a field. He can't walk for long periods of time because it's quite painful for him. So he wanted to get involved with being active with his son. And so he rigged up for him and using as well an e-bike, but obviously he's rigged out some parts for his legs, everything like that, with a bike, and he goes mountain biking. And him and his wife have created a charity where they have like an open day for people with disabilities that are in wheelchairs and all that can't freely go walking in the bush on trails and stuff. And they're making all sorts of stuff, bikes for the arms, like kind of like a wheel robust kind of. It was just amazing because it's just the basics things. It's about getting outside. And I just found that so beautiful. And another thing I wanted to share as well is I've noticed, and this is, again, you do not need to be like going into the gym if that's not suited for you or you don't like it. Because I went and did a talk at a corporate company, and I was talking about stretching at work, and I gave them some stretches that they can do at their desk. And a lot of people afterwards, the comments I got later on that day was, oh, I feel so much better. I'm amazed just by doing that little bit of movement of stretching, how much better I feel. And they didn't do a marathon. They didn't have to join, pardon me, a gym. They didn't have to do any of that. They just created some kind of movement. It fascinated me. Sorry, I just had to share that because it was just, those are two different examples going from one extreme to the other about how we do not need to just find something that you enjoy, even if it's just to go for a walk. That is great. That is so, pardon my French, fucking awesome. Sorry, can you feel my excitement?
I
Can you
love the
feel my
French.
passion? Ugh, and talking with the
Yeah.
hands. Those aren't seeing
Oh,
me. I'm very like, you can see
she's
that I got a bit
moving.
of Latin in me.
She's moving.
I move my hands around.
She's moving.
I like to talk with my hands. I should
Mhm.
learn how to do sign language, man.
You should. I think we all should, actually, myself included.
Yeah, I think that would be a good thing. It'd be good for the
Yeah.
brain.
Yes.
And you're creating movement. It might not be
Yes.
fully body, but it's something, right?
Actually, one of my clients came to me. She didn't come to me for this reason. She was already training with me, but she took up sign language.
Oh,
And what
cool.
she found was that she didn't have very good dexterity in her fingers. So she said to me one day, I don't suppose you can help me get more movement and mobility in my fingers. So I was like, well, I've never done this before. So I did a lot of research and we came up with a little program so that she could try and actually get a bit more control over her fingers. Because sign language is tricky. You have to do different things with different fingers. And she found that she couldn't actually lift one of her fingers. It was so interesting because until you try and do something like that, you just don't know.
Yeah,
Anyway,
and it's the same
that was
with
a tangent.
toes. That same with the toes, because what I teach is yoga toes, right? So you lift, spread your toes as wide as you can, and then you earth them back into the ground to help activate the foot. And a lot of people can't do that. And I'm not going to show you now, but I'll show you when you and I are at the gym someday. But I can really spread my toes and move them around. And I know a lot of clients of mine that's how they are with their toes, and it's the same thing with their hands. So if they're like doing a plank or anything like that on their hands, I get them to spread their hands, because you think about that, you need to work your hands, right? Because otherwise we're always like this, holding onto a mouse, holding onto a phone, so all crunched in. So it makes sense. And good on you for taking on the challenge. I like that, Michelle.
Yeah, no,
Good on
different.
you.
Say yes to
I
everything.
bet you it was an amazing learning.
Yes, yeah, really interesting. Yeah, and it was so interesting for her that she didn't realize that she had this issue until she needed to be
Again,
able to use her fingers in that way.
you move it or you lose it.
Move it or lose it.
Now, tell us a little bit, Michelle, about you've done some research about the muscle and bone decline and how movement can help with this.
Yeah, and actually, move it or lose it is a really good tagline for this topic. So, these are actually medical conditions that I'm going to talk about.
Awesome.
And actually, of course, it is still individual, but most people will be prescribed some type of movement to help with these issues as well. So the first one is sarcopenia. So this is a natural decline of our muscles as we age. So this happens anyway. There's not much
What
we
age
can
does
do
that normally
to stop it.
happen at,
It's
Michelle?
really depressing. So basically, after the age of 30 years old,
Yeah, that's what I
we
thought.
start to lose our muscle mass at a rate of about 3 to 8% per year.
Really? I didn't think it was that much.
Yeah.
Right.
Post-menopause, or maybe it's per decade. I think it's per decade.
I was going to say that's
You're
a
like,
big
"Oh!"
loss.
Yeah, that's like,
per
oh no,
year.
hang on, per year. That's
That's a
It'll
lot.
be shriveled little razors per decade. Edit. Post-menopause, in women, that declines a lot quicker because of our decrease in the hormone estrogen.
I've noticed that with myself.
Interesting. So it's a natural thing that will happen anyway, but the more muscle mass that you have in the first place, the less this will cause you issues further down the track. So
nice.
Actually being active right from childhood, if you have children, encourage them to be as active as possible, because that really lays the foundation for your muscle growth that you can continue to work on in adulthood. And then post 30, which is just so young, when the decline is starting to happen and it's harder to build muscle, it's not impossible, but it's harder. The more muscle that you have, the stronger and the healthier you're going to be for longer. Because it's going to happen. You will see people when they age, they start to shrink, they start to literally shrink in height
I've
as
seen that with
well.
my dad, because you got to think,
Yeah,
with my dad, he was very stationary, static, moving hurt, and literally he was like skin and bones. Even when I
yeah.
seen him last year, in May, which I think what was it? He passed away in February the following year. So, and you just see that decline. He could barely do anything, get up. And I see that actually in, I've got two older clients, and yeah, I'm seeing a lot of hip and knee issues like you wouldn't believe. And it's because they're weak. Like even just pressing like a 3-4 kg overhead is so hard.
Mm.
So hard and challenging. And that's great. I like that. I like where you're going with this, Michelle. Sorry. I
Mm.
just wanted to share that because it's amazing. Like even if you're not going to the gym to build muscle, but go to the gym to maintain it so you can get up, you can pick up stuff, right?
Absolutely. And there's been something going around on social media recently, and it's someone saying, I don't go to the gym for my summer body. I go to the gym for, and I'm butchering it, I don't know exactly what it says, but the message is, I go to the gym because I don't want somebody wiping my ass for me when I'm an old person,
Yeah.
essentially. You know, it's not
Yeah.
about my summer body. This is about being a person with a good quality of life when I'm in my older years,
Yeah.
because that work starts now in our adulthood when we have the ability cognitively and physically to build muscle mass, to make sure that we are heading into our older years in the best shape that we possibly can. And it's not about what you look like in a bikini, it's literally about how dense your muscle mass is.
Yeah.
Um, so that when it starts to decline, you've still got muscle that can move your skeleton. That means that you can sit up out of a chair unaided. That means you can sit down onto a toilet and get yourself back up again.
And not needing the railing on the side.
Yes, yeah. So you can walk to the shops, pick up groceries, walk home with them, you know, do actual functional things. Pick up your grandchildren when they're, you know, playing with you, you know, actual real things that we don't think about now as adults because we're too busy doing our life. But it will come around. And if you're past the age of 30, if you're not doing anything to maintain or increase your muscle mass, then it's going to be declining,
Yeah.
quite
Yeah.
frankly.
And what do you know what that makes me think of? Do you remember how I taught you about the oh, why am I going blank? The blue oh my God.
Blue zone.
Thank you, Blue Zone. I was like, oh, you're a gem. I'm so glad I taught you that. So Blue Zone, if you think about like the people who live in blue zones, they don't have gyms, but they cycle, they move, they garden, they hunt, they fish, they move, they move,
Yeah.
period. They
Yeah.
tend to their property, they move, they live off the land and they move, and they're into their hundreds. So that
Yeah.
shows right there, just moving,
Yeah,
just move.
doing things. And I guess we're in a society now where we have machinery that does everything for us.
Yeah.
You know, back in the day, you used to manually have to wash your hands, your clothes by hand.
I knew where you're going with
You
that.
used to wash your hands, you know,
Really? What
and
do you
now
do
now we use hand sanitizer.
now?
So we don't even need to.
That's so true. So
But
true
you
though.
know, life was so much harder. You know, you're right. They didn't have gyms back in the day, but they were manual. Everything was manual. Now we just press a button.
And it's done.
You
Yeah.
you don't even need to turn your lights on. You can just say out
Clap your
loud to your
hands.
clap your
Or
hands. You know, we don't have to do anything. We don't have to move. We have drive-in restaurants. You don't even have to get out of your car.
you don't even
You
have to
know,
leave your
you
home.
don't have to leave your home. You've got apps. Food comes to you. You do nothing. Like we live in a society where we don't have to do anything.
No.
So, and this is why gyms and exercise venues have become popular because we don't live that manual life anymore. So we're not doing anything with our bodies that's going to elicit any type of change. You know, you need to work yourself hard and be challenged in order for your muscles to grow back stronger.
Yeah.
But if we're not giving them that stimulus, then nothing's going to happen. And that decline is going to continue happening. And like I said, it's even worse for women once we've hit the menopause and we've lost the hormones that help with our muscle growth. So
Yeah,
one
especially
of
the
the
good estrogen, right?
recommendations, yeah, absolutely. So one of the recommendations, if you are a woman who is in perimenopause or postmenopause, is to do resistance training, resistance type exercise, because you must challenge your muscles in a way and stimulate them to work in the way that they used to when estrogen was completely present. So,
Yeah.
you know, in that case, movement literally is medicine, because it won't stop the decline of your muscle mass, but it will slow it down enough for you to maintain a decent quality of life as you age.
Yeah. And that's and again, it's just move it or lose it, you know?
Move it or lose it.
I love that. I love that little tagline.
Yeah.
Move it or lose it. That was a
Move it
good
or
one. I'm
lose
glad
it.
that we did a little brainstorm on that.
Yeah. Sorry, just one other one.
Yeah, go ahead,
Again,
Michelle.
probably more relevant for women, but it's osteoporosis. Men can suffer from osteoporosis as well, but basically this is a condition that affects our bone mineral density. So basically the strength of our bones. As we age, again, our bone mineral density will decrease, but other factors can play a role in this, such as our declining hormones, and such as your activity. If you aren't challenging your bones and forcing them to be strong enough for use, then they're not going to be. And this is why people, as they age, are at much higher risk of fractures. If they fall, they're much more likely to actually fracture and break a bone than if you were younger and had stronger bones. So again, what helps bone mineral density? Movement.
Yeah.
Movement.
Talk like me with my hands.
Not just any old movement. So I love swimming. I don't actually. If you like swimming, I love that you love swimming. I don't really like swimming because I wear contact lenses and it's just too much for me. But swimming is a good cardiovascular exercise. It's good if you have joint issues. It's a really good tool. That's not going to really help with your bone mineral density. Neither is cycling, because again, you're not really putting a lot of force through your bones. Things like running, jumping, plyometric type exercises where you're jumping onto things or off of things. It doesn't actually even need to be as intense of that. It can be stepping up onto something or stepping down from something. It can be throwing a ball at a wall. You know, there are other ways to kind of challenge your bones.
If you've got knee and hip issues and you can't jump around, that's why Michelle's saying that. Sorry, Michelle, I just wanted to make sure they understood that.
Yeah, like I run a boot camp and one of my ladies, she's got pelvic floor dysfunction. So one of the exercises that I had set was to jump with a skipping rope. So that's great, the bone mineral density, but not so great if you've got pelvic floor dysfunction. So instead, she did marching on the spot with really high knees, really pushing her foot down into the ground. So we found an alternate that was still producing force through the bones to help promote that strength. So
nice.
You know, it sounds really extreme. You don't have to become a parkour specialist and start jumping off things to, I'm just trying to improve my bone mineral density. Woo, woo. You know, it doesn't have to be that crazy, but you do need to put multi-directional force through your bones. So it's not just running forward and back, sidestepping, side to side, forward, back, in, out, shake it all about.
But again, just that movement, even like shaking your arms like we are for those that can't see us, we're shaking around and moving. I love your energy dancing. As you're talking about it. You're just like omphing with energy. And look at that. And Michelle's just waving her arms around and talking, and she's creating movement by just that little bit, but that's increasing your energy. And I just wanted to point that out for especially those that are watching, is like, and it's beautiful to see, and I love that. And this is what it's about creating energy and being around like-minded people that feel the same. So that's why it's also good to even what helps is some people struggle just going to the gym on their own. Some people, that's their place, that's their mental space, and that's what they do for them. But those that don't, join a group of something, like even if it's just once a week, that at least that'll get going. And just, like I had a consult today and she's like, she doesn't want to lose weight, she wants to lose the belly fat. I love it because she's all about body composition, but she wasn't too sure how to explain it. But she's like, I don't want to lose weight, I just want to lose the belly fat. I'm like, cool. And she's like, I want to create a bit more muscle, I want to be strong. I'm like, cool. She's like, I want to come to a point where I'm in love with it. I loved her answer. I want to fall in love with working out. I want to enjoy it. I don't want to be, oh, I got to do this. Oh, I got to do that. So this is going to be fascinating, such a great little challenge for me, because I want to get her to that point. I want to help her to love coming to the gym and it being her me time. She's in her early 30s, so it's a good time and point to do that, right?
Absolutely. The work we do now will make her older years easier and much more enjoyable.
So I'm really wanting to work with this young lady, and and just go for it. It feels really weird saying young lady. I'm like 45 and she's like 32. I feel old. I didn't like that. That didn't sit well with me.
Oh, you said older lady in her 60s. I'm not going to be old when I'm in my 60s. Thank you very much.
Oh, that felt really old. That felt so old. And I just didn't sit right with me, man. It didn't sit right with me. And even like, for example, like I went away this weekend and I went to the Marlborough Sounds. I lived in Blenheim when I first moved to New Zealand. And I spent some lovely afternoon when my parents came to New Zealand down, actually, for the Northern Hemisphere, down to the Southern Hemisphere. Anyways, and we spent a beautiful afternoon in the Marlborough Sounds in a bay called Governor's Bay. And I went and dispersed my dad some, not all of his ashes. I had just a little wee package. I went down there just because that just felt right for me. And I had my friend come with me, and she's 75, 76, something like that. And we and we went down and we walked down, and she brought her cane and she kept going to me, oh, I'm going to be really slow. And I'm like, whatever, it doesn't matter. Let's just create some movement. And it was more or less on the way up because it was quite steep walking up. And I said, who cares? We'll just take a few steps, do some breathing, whatever, and just look around and be in the moment and present. Then she did a few more steps and stopped, and we looked around and stuff, and we made it up. And it was like such a lovely way to go up, but we still moved. I still counted steps, right? Because I'm moving my feet. It wasn't high intensity, but I loved it because we still moved. But sometimes moving slower is just as good as moving fast. Sometimes we need to pull back and just move slower.
And you enjoyed the journey. There's a nice metaphor there, isn't there?
Yeah, it's about the journey, not the destination.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorites.
And this is it. The destination in all of this is the future. It's when we're older. It's, it's so far out of reach that we can't even imagine it. So it can't be about the destination. It has to be about the journey, just enjoying it, just finding that movement that you like and sticking with it, because it's a lifelong thing. It's a lifelong habit. You can't just go to the gym for 1 year and say, cool, that's me done, and then go back, because if you don't move it, you lose it.
Good one, Michelle. Good girl.
Got it in there again.
Yeah. I think hopefully you guys are getting it now. Getting it. It doesn't matter. Don't think you need to go to the gym. No, if that doesn't sing to your heart and soul, then don't. Find something else. And this is, and even having someone like myself and Michelle to help guide you and figure that out. There's nothing wrong with that. You don't have to pay for a PT because you're going to the gym or they're at the gym. No, what I title myself is a wellness transformational coach, because I do all sorts of stuff. And Michelle's got also a lot of tools herself, and she knows that it's not just about the gym, and she's got the nutrition background. So we're not just PTs. I want you guys to think about that a little bit as well, and thinking about, hey, I need someone to help me out. reach out to us. We'd love to help you if you need help, and go with who you resonate. Not one person is better than the other. Everybody's got their own niche, their own strength, their own weaknesses. It's just who you resonate with best. That's how I look at it.
Yeah, to make your journey enjoyable.
That's right. Where you can have a laugh.
Yeah.
Where you can be lighthearted, but also who will challenge you. I was on my way home having a chat with a mate of mine, and he was saying something, and I challenged him, and I stepped back a little bit, and I was like, oh, and he's like, no, I like that you challenge me. You're making sure that I'm still sticking to my path, because sometimes we have something, see like a bird. What is it? What bird is it where they see shiny things and they get distracted
Magpies.
Yes, magpies. That's it. And they see something shiny and they get distracted and they lose that focus on what they were doing. And that's what we do as well, for each other, for our clients, for our friends, for our family. So stay on the narrow path, move it or lose it.
Move it or lose it.
Love that. Okay. I think that's enough. We yantered big time today, guys.
I feel like you can tell it's a subject that we're quite passionate about, that's for sure.
Not at all. Not at all. Not at all. We're not passionate at all. I can't. And that's why I was talking about it when I see Michelle talking and she's like enthused. It was awesome. It was so beautiful. Okay, we'll leave it there so we can leave you a bit on a cliffhanger. What else is going to happen? Okay, guys, you guys are beautiful. You're wonderful. Michelle?
Thank you for listening. We will see you next time.
And any questions, leave them down below or above. I don't know what app you're on. Like us, follow us, reach out to us, comment. We'd love to hear some review. We'd love to hear some your guys' review and feedback, so we know where to go, how to make this grow, and how we can help support you in any way. Take care.
Now go and do something that requires movement.
Yeah, let's go. Go if you're at work, you're at home, whatever. Just walk. Do one loop around the house.
Movement.
Done.
Yeah.
Oh, finish back to work if you're listening to us. Yeah. Anything. Maybe just punch in the air. Do some stretches. Oh, that feels good. Anyway, guys, we will see you guys next time. Thank you for coming and sharing with us. And ciao.
If you have enjoyed listening to our podcast today
and want to hear more, please subscribe using the button below.